million viewers each week.
Welcome everyone, this is the magnificent MongoSlade, and I am going to explain to you today why I will not be watching Raw on Netflix. But we got to first talk about that Monday Night Raw will be on Netflix. I am not paying for another streaming service. That's the too long, didn't listen version, but we're going to get into this because at like 7:45 in the morning on Tuesday, January the 23rd, WWE and Netflix announced their partnership. WWE also announced that Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson will be joining the TKO group, and they gave him the name The Rock. We'll talk about that later. So this is from Netflix. It says long-term deal brings weekly live sports entertainment to Netflix. We're not going to read the whole thing. It says beginning in January 2025, Netflix will be the exclusive new home of Raw in the US, Canada, UK, and Latin America, among other territories, with additional countries and regions to be added over time. Likewise, part of the agreement, Netflix will also become the home for all WWE shows and specials outside the US as available, inclusive of Raw and WWE's other weekly shows, SmackDown and NXT, as well as the company's premium live events, including WrestleMania, SummerSlam, Royal Rumble, etc. WWE's award-winning documentaries, original series, and forthcoming projects will be available on Netflix internationally beginning in 2025. All right, so what they're saying here is that Peacock has the exclusive home in the United States, but outside the United States, Netflix will be the place where you will watch WrestleMania, Royal Rumble, SummerSlam, etc. So it's not interfering with the Peacock deal. It only says that for people outside the United States, you will have to watch WWE products on Netflix. Mark Shapiro says the deal is transformative. It marries the can't-miss WWE product with Netflix's extraordinary global reach and locks in significant and predictable economics for many years. Our partnership fundamentally alters and strengthens the media landscape, dramatically expands the reach of WWE, and brings weekly live appointment viewing to Netflix. Interesting. We are excited to have WWE Raw with its huge and passionate multi-generational fan base on Netflix. Netflix Chief Content Officer Bella Baharia said, by combining our reach, recommendations, and fandom with WWE, we'll be able to deliver more enjoy and value for the audiences of our members. Raw is the best sports entertainment, blending great characters and storytelling with live action 52 weeks a year, and we are thrilled to be in this long-term partnership with WWE. Nick Khan says, in its relatively short history, Netflix has engineered a phenomenal track record for storytelling. We believe in Netflix as one of the world's leading entertainment brands is the ideal long-term home for Raw's live, loyal, and ever-growing fan base. Let's pause right here. Netflix is losing money. All streaming services are losing money. That's the nature of streaming services. They are all losing money. Is this going to help? It might. But again, when you're WWE, and I said this before, the whole time they started talking about streaming services, I said before, trying to get people to opt into multiple streaming services is a bad do. That's why I will not be doing this. I will have to find some kind of comfortable stream to watch Monday Night Raw probably next year. Because the idea that I'm going to pay for Peacock and then also pay for Netflix to watch WWE, that's ridiculous. That's ridiculous. I'm not doing that. If I lived in Canada or something like that, then you would get it all in one shot. But I live in the United States, so then you're asking me to pay for Peacock. You're also asking me to pay for Netflix. No way. I'm going to pass on that. It currently says the show is currently #1 show on USA Network, where it brings 17.5 million unique viewers over the course of the year. One of television's best performing shows in the 18 to 49 demographic, Raw extends on X 52 weeks a year, while each new episode... Oh, it said trends, I'm sorry. Trends on X 52 weeks a year while each episode is airing. On social media, WWE has more than 1 billion followers across its platforms. So, they're really touting the number 17.5 million unique viewers per year. That would be people who weren't watching before or something like that. So I don't know how they calculate that. I would be really interested in asking that question. I'm not a big fan of this whole streaming service thing. I really am not. It's kind of ridiculous. So CNBC has a little bit of a follow-up with this. Netflix and TKO said Tuesday that the streaming platform will air WWE's flagship program Raw starting next year in Netflix's major foray into live sports. Netflix, which is trying to drive revenue by cutting down on subscription sharing and pushing viewers toward its ad tier membership, has made few attempts at live programming in its history. Adding Raw, which currently airs on USA Network, to its programming lineup will be a boon to the platform. And it says the TKO shares jumped 10% in pre-market trading following the announcements. That includes the announcement of Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson in a second. So if you guys like the idea of WWE and Netflix, because you probably already have Netflix, and I think that's probably the idea behind it, is that so many of these people already have Netflix. It's like you're not asking people to get something that they don't already have, which is why when I started this video, I said why MongoSlade will not be watching it. I don't pay for Netflix. I don't watch Netflix. Anything that I want to see on Netflix, I find a stream of it. Or, you sell the high seas. I don't pay for Netflix. So the idea that I'm just going to be able to look, Raw still will be able to, I will be able to find Monday Night Raw. That's not going to be an issue. But unless somebody's going to pay for my Netflix, I'm probably not going to do it. The streaming services, they can up the costs at any time. It's about as bad as cable. Who knows how much they're going to have to increase the costs in order to pay this, because they're going to look, again, Netflix they're not exactly financially stable. All right. I shouldn't say that. That's not exactly correct. In I think July of last year, Netflix reportedly lost $18 billion in value. $18 billion. This was less than a year ago. All right. That they lost $18 billion. Now, look, they have a lot of money. And Netflix is not going to go under. That's not what I'm saying. But when you look at how Netflix is losing revenue, Netflix is actually slowly bleeding subscribers. It's becoming more and more likely that they're trying to do anything they can to turn it around. That being said, however, there's over 170 million people with Netflix. That much is a fact. So you got it's like 300,000 Americans, maybe 330,000 or something like that. So about half the country, let's say, let's say about half the country has Netflix, or they have some access to Netflix, maybe through a friend or something like that. So it's substantially bigger than Peacock in terms of how many people it holds. And then this is an international deal. So they're going to have eventually the people in Canada and the UK, etc. Let me make sure that is correct as I'm saying it, because I don't want to get anything wrong, to make sure that my information is correct. Okay, yeah, that is correct. So the Netflix will also become the home of all WWE shows and specials outside the U.S. as available. Okay, yeah. So 170 million Americans. And then all of the people outside the U.S., maybe the UK, Canada, Australia, etc. It's a good deal for WWE. I think it was worth like $10 billion or $5 billion or something crazy like that. It's a lot of money. It's a lot of money. And WWE it's for more than $5 billion. So we don't know how much exactly it is, but it's more than $5 billion. So the days of being able to watch Monday Night Raw on television and knowing what the ratings are, you can forget that. We don't know what the ratings are. We're not likely to know what the ratings were for Raw. How many of these 170 million or so subscribers are actually watching the show? I would imagine it's going to be more than the people who are watching USA Network right now. And the reason why I say that is because with USA, you still have to have cable. And a lot of people don't have cable. I would imagine now there's more people with Netflix than with cable. So I would imagine this was Nick Khan's way of kind of splitting the baby, of saying we don't want people to buy another streaming service, but if they already have it and a great deal of people already do have Netflix, then they already have, access to Monday Night Raw, and they're not paying for anything extra. If it was going to be Amazon or something like that, you would probably say it's something extra. But with Netflix, it's almost assumed that everybody has Netflix. And if you are part of that everybody has Netflix, then WWE doesn't say, okay, it's off-putting. It's not off-putting to you. But for somebody who is not trying to get into that streaming, rabble-rousing, 100 different streaming services, then I'm in that boat, because I'm not trying to have 4 or 5 different streaming services paying, $20 or whatever dollars, per streaming service. I might as well get cable at that point. So it might be a good deal for you, especially if you're outside the United States. It might be perfectly fine, especially if you already got Netflix. It's probably good. You don't have no problems with that. You could just watch Raw. That's great. You don't have to worry about these ratings. Them complaining about, Monday Night Football cutting into Monday Night Raw's ratings, all that stuff. The talk of, AEW being potentially in trouble because Raw is going to come through and crush the buildings and kick them off their own network. I know Tony Khan is breathing deep. All right. He's probably breathing deep. And rightfully so, man. This was kind of a scary time for him. People talked for months and months and months about perhaps Monday Night Raw going to Warner Brothers Discovery. Now he doesn't have to worry about that. Now he can focus on getting a new deal for his company, and everything ought to be all right on the AEW front. So if you're an AEW fan, you probably like this deal. Now, if you're a wrestling journalist who likes to talk about the ratings every week, if you're Vince Russo, you probably hate this. How are you supposed to know whether the show is good or not, bro? I don't know whether the show is good or not. I can't tell by the ratings, because the ratings are always post hoc justification for why something is good or not. Well, did it draw in the ratings? If it drew in the ratings, then it's good. If it didn't draw, then it was bad. It's like, no, that's not how things work all the time. But okay. That's why I don't really talk ratings. So it's going to be a very interesting time in 2025 when guys like Vince Russo are trying to watch Monday Night Raw and they don't know whether something works or not because they don't know what the ratings are. Then you might try to actually see, what kind of analysis these people are coming up with. All right, so that's just the Netflix stuff. Let's talk about The Rock now. So it was also announced around the same time, maybe a couple of minutes before, on January the 23rd, TKO appoints Dwayne Johnson to the board of directors. Johnson granted full ownership of trademark name The Rock. It says Johnson, one of the most decorated WWE superstars in history and the most followed American man globally on social media platforms, brings decades of experience in live entertainment and sports to the board. Through his expansive business portfolio, which includes 7 Bucks Productions, Terramana Tequila, Zoa Energy, Project Rock, and the recently combined Spring Football League, the United Football League, Johnson has significant experience identifying and cultivating revenue-generating media rights, live events, sponsorship, licensing, and social media opportunities. The appointment of Johnson reflects TKO's commitment to delivering long-term value and strong performance for shareholders through strategic growth initiatives across the UFC and WWE. All right, before we move on to talk a little bit more about this, does any of The Rock's actual businesses? I know 7 Bucks is pretty good. They've produced quite a few television shows that people like Ballers, and Young Rock was on for a little while. They also had deals with Vice where they did documentaries like Tales from the Territories. But is Terramana really successful? I don't know. I don't know nothing about liquor. What about Zoa Energy? Is that really successful? I heard somewhere that The Rock lost tons of money on the XFL. That's why they ended up folding into the UFL. Look, I don't hate the UFL idea. I don't know what his job is for the UFL. But The Rock is not like a terrible businessman. I'm not saying this Rock thing is awful. It's actually pretty good. And it actually leads some credence to people who said that The Rock will never work for Triple H. And he won't. He will never work for Triple H. All right, so this is a continuation continuation of the same article, Vince McMahon says, very few people on the planet understand the convergence of sports, entertainment, media, and business like The Rock. We are proud to have him join the TKO board to help take our company to new media heights. Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson said, my grandfather, Height Chief Peter Maivia, and my dad, Rocky Man Soul Man Johnson, would have never thought this day would come, which is why I'm very humbled to have a seat at the table that has decades of history and family legacy for me. A table that my family helped to build. Being on the TKO board of directors and taking full ownership of my name, The Rock, is not only unprecedented, but incredibly inspiring as my crazy life is coming full circle. At my core, I'm a builder who builds for and serves the people. And Ari is building something truly game-changing. I'm very motivated to help continue globally expand our TKO, WWE, and UFC businesses as the worldwide leaders in sports entertainment, and proudly representing so many phenomenal athletes and performers who show up every day putting in the hard work with their own two hands to make their dreams come true and deliver for our audiences. I've been there. I'm still here. This is for them. Ari Emanuel says, I am thrilled to partner with Dwayne and welcome his immense talent to TKO board. Dwayne brings an incredible track record of creating content and building globally recognized consumer brands, and he will play a key role in realizing our ambitions for TKO. And then they go into a little bit about his family history. And it says, WWE also entered into a services and merchandising agreement with Johnson that provides for his promotional, licensing, and other services, and an intellectual property assignment agreement pursuant to which Johnson has secured ownership of the trademark name The Rock. The name is derived from his father, WWE Hall of Famer Rocky Johnson, who was the first black WWE champion. That was very weirdly worded. They didn't just say it was a tag team championship. They just said he was the first black champion in WWE history. And then in brackets, it says alongside partner Tony Atlas. Johnson's grandfather, Peter Maivia, a Samoan-American professional wrestler, was posthumously inducted to WWE Hall of Fame in 2008. It says, with the addition of Johnson as today's appointment brings the TKO boards from 11 it says from 11 to 13. Also, it's another guy that got appointed at the same time. His name was Brad Keywell. Who knows who the hell that guy is? All right, so this is another thing that includes it in The Rock's contract. It says that WWE assigned to Mr. Johnson via one of his affiliates The Rock trademark and certain related trademarks, service marks, ring names, taglines, and other intellectual properties, aka the assigned IP. On the effective date, WWE also entered into an independent services contractor and merchandising agreement with Mr. Johnson and certain of his affiliates, pursuant to Mr. Johnson's agreed to provide WWE certain promotional and other services. Under the terms of the service agreement, Mr. Johnson further agreed to license the assigned IP in Mr. Johnson's name, likeness, and other intellectual property rights to WWE for use in connection with certain categories of licensed products related to professional wrestling for up to 10 years, subject to certain earlier termination rights. So just take this a little bit at a time. The Rock owns the name The Rock now. WWE is then licensed, so they have to pay him to use the name. They can use the name for all things professional wrestling. So for taglines, video games, etc., they can use The Rock for 10 years. And that's an interesting deal. But then again, anybody who owns their name has to sign the name over to WWE in order to use it. So AJ Styles, CM Punk, same thing, right? Okay. So it says, in respect of the intellectual property grants and licenses made by Mr. Johnson and his affiliates in connection therewith, Mr. Johnson is entitled to receive an award of restricted stock units in respect of TKO's Class A common stock. I'm not going to go into that. It says in amounts equal to $30 million based on a 30-day average of the daily volume. All right. So he's got $30 million in stock, which is a nice little chunk of change. It says, prior to the effective date, Mr. Johnson received annual royalties from WWE in connection with his appearances in WWE-produced content, merchandise, and other services performed for WWE. For the year ended December 31st, 2023, Mr. Johnson received royalties in an aggregate amount of approximately $491,000. That would mean that not his appearances, but basically all the money that they made off of his name. So if they produce DVDs, t-shirts, or whatever, all the money he generated from that added up to almost $500,000. Following the effective date, Mr. Johnson was continued to receive such annual royalties from WWE and will be entitled to receive royalties in connection with the sale of licensed products that utilize the IP and his name, likeness, and other intellectual property rights in accordance with the services agreement. So he's going to continue to collect royalties. Oh man, this is a Nick Khan deal, and you could tell. You know, Nick Khan loves him some of The Rock, so he's definitely got this thing going. Nick Khan and The Rock have been running some kind of I was about to call it a sham, but Nick Khan and The Rock are very close. So this comes as a bit of a surprise, you know. But going from being one of the boys to being one of the bosses is incredible. It's incredible storytelling. You would hope that WWE would grant a lot of people who've been around as long as The Rock the rights to the name. Like when I saw this, the first thing I said is, why Undertaker can't own Undertaker? You know, is there any good reason why Mark Calloway can't own the name The Undertaker? He was The Undertaker for 30 fucking years. It's not like it's going to go anywhere. You could sign, and I'm not saying give him a seat at the table, like, you know, put him on the TKO board. What I'm saying is if you're going to give The Rock the name The Rock and you're going to let him have it, and he can do whatever he wants with it because he still has other projects, you know, that's why the licensing agreement is exclusive to professional wrestling. He has other things that he probably wants to put his name and logo on, which is fine. But why can't Undertaker do that? You know, why can't a guy like Mick Foley, who was Mankind for so many years, or Cactus Jack for so many years, why can't they own those names? You know, we should be looking to give as many of those names back as possible as a sort of retirement to the boys. And I think that's one of the good ones. Is it's one thing to be like a cup of coffee kind of guy in WWE, like Chris Masters or something like that. You know, you're not going to make any money off that. He's not really going to make any money off that. So I would say give it to him, just because, like, what's that going to turn into? What is that really? But especially if you're a person where we're always going to be putting you in video games, we're also going to be doing action figures, we're always going to do this stuff, you should be able to generate an income off of that. So while it's very sweet for The Rock, because he's got buddies in the office of TKO, that's great that, you know, they're going to hook him up with a board position, and he gets to keep his name, he gets to use the name or whatever. But what about everybody else? You know, I know The Rock is a very unique case because he has a successful outside businesses. I know that. But we definitely need to see more of this. I like it. I want to see more of it. Now, in terms of The Rock being involved with WWE business, again, I don't know how much The Rock actually does in his businesses. He seems to be mostly a front man, which is why throughout, when you listen to what they read, they said through his affiliates and all this kind of stuff. Okay, I don't know what that means. You know, it could be, you know, his accountants and all those kinds of people. But this is a big deal for WWE. And it goes to show the power of people who say that, you know, you shouldn't be an independent contractor. The Rock was an independent contractor the entire time he was in WWE. From the moment they sent him to get training in USWA to now, he has worked as an independent contractor. He has never been an employee of WWE. And you could actually even in some way say Vince kind of groomed him for Hollywood, then sent him off to Hollywood. There was a little bit of a schism there for a second, but then they reconnected, and they've been doing things ever since, looking for ways to make The Rock mean more on the WWE stage. And this is the biggest way possible. So now, if you want to have your Rock and Roman Reigns match, who is the real head of the table? The guy who's on the board of directors, or the guy who is just the world champion? That could be fun. And that's The Rock's last match. That could be fun. You know, utilizing The Rock's publicly known position in TKO as part of the story, where he is technically Roman Reigns' boss. That could be fun. That could be a fun storyline. And just to tie a nice little bow on The Rock's career, and then he doesn't have to do the wrestling thing anymore. He'll still always be a part of the company because he's going to be on the board. So he may make appearances here and there. They'll always be able to sell merchandise, and he'll always be in the video games and all that kind of stuff. But he doesn't actually have to wrestle anymore. So that could be fine, you know. So I think we are going to probably get Roman Reigns versus The Rock now. Will it be at WrestleMania? It's looking more and more likely. But Raw to Netflix, Dwayne Johnson on the board, big day, and it's not even 10 o'clock in the morning for WWE. It's not even 10 o'clock yet. But how y'all feeling about this? Let me know in the comment section below. I'll talk to you guys later.